The story begins with Princess Irulan, the daughter of Emperor Shaddam IV, recording the fall of House Atreides, a massacre secretly orchestrated by her own father. Meanwhile, Paul Atreides and his mother, Jessica, have successfully integrated themselves among the Fremen of Arrakis. Together with a Fremen force led by Stilgar, they ambush a squad of Harkonnen soldiers tasked with eliminating Fremen settlements. The attack ends in victory as the Fremen wipe out the enemy and reclaim their water supplies. Jessica, who is pregnant, shares a mysterious telepathic connection with her unborn daughter. To dispose of the fallen Harkonnens, the Fremen activate a thumper, summoning a massive sandworm that devours the bodies. Elsewhere, Rabban grows increasingly frustrated as the Harkonnens continue suffering losses at the hands of the Fremen. Stilgar then escorts Paul and Jessica to Siege Tab, a hidden Fremen sanctuary. There, the tribal elders reveal that their reverend mother is nearing death and suggest Jessica take her place. A devoted believer in the prophecy of the Lisan al-Gaib, Stilgar remains convinced that a mother and son from the outer world will bring peace to Arrakis. He shows Jessica the sacred reserve of 38 million decaliters of water, preserved to one day transform Arrakis into a green paradise under the guidance of the prophesied savior. Because Jessica is also a Bene Gesserit, Stilgar proposes that she become the next Reverend Mother by drinking the water of life, a substance extracted from sandworms. Jessica accepts the ritual and survives, inheriting the memories of all previous Reverend Mothers. Her survival strengthens the faith of believers like Stilgar, though others remain skeptical. With Jessica transformed, Stilgar begins teaching Paul the ways of the desert. He sends him across the sands, warning him to avoid walking in predictable patterns that might attract sandworms. During one such journey, Paul encounters Chani, a skilled Fremen warrior. Chani teaches him the proper desert walk, and over time a deep bond forms between them. Days later, Paul, Chani, and the Feyd-Rautha launch an assault on another Harkonnen spice harvester and destroy it successfully. Their victory is celebrated, and Paul chooses the Fremen named Muad'Dib, inspired by the desert mouse of Arrakis. As Paul learns to ride sandworms and fights alongside the Fremen, his relationship with Chani blossoms into love. The legend of Muad'Dib begins spreading among the Harkonnens as well. Gifted with visions of the future, Paul sees a mysterious woman walking toward the sun, a vision linked to a devastating holy war that leaves millions starving across the galaxy. Eventually, Paul attempts his first sandworm ride and succeeds in mounting Shai-Hulud, one of the largest worms on Arrakis. His mastery earns the admiration and cheers of the Fremen. Meanwhile, Jessica, now serving as Reverend Mother, actively encourages belief in the prophecy surrounding Paul in order to influence and unite the people of Arrakis. Paul becomes angry with her for creating what he sees as false hope. When he experiences the vision again, he realizes that the woman responsible for igniting the holy war is Jessica herself. Jessica and the Fremen elders then travel south to join other Fremen fundamentalists who strongly believe in the prophecy. Growing exhausted by constant reports about Muad'Dib, Rabban launches an attack on a Fremen outpost. However, once his troops arrive, they are ambushed by Muad'Dib and his warriors emerging from the dust. Rabban retreats in fear, while most of his soldiers are slaughtered by the Feyd-Rautha. News of the prophet Muad'Dib eventually reaches the Emperor, who becomes increasingly concerned. Princess Irulan speculates that the mysterious figure may actually be Paul Atreides. She discusses the matter with the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother Helen Mohiam, who suggests bringing Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen into the situation. Feyd-Rautha is the unstable nephew of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, ruler of GD Prime and Rabban's younger brother. On GD Prime, a grand gladiatorial spectacle is held, and Baron Vladimir attends to watch Feyd-Rautha face the last 3 surviving Atreides soldiers. 2 of the warriors have been drugged and are quickly slaughtered, while the final Atreides fighter puts up a fierce struggle before ultimately being stabbed to death. Following his victory, Feyd-Rautha is celebrated as a champion. During the festivities, a Bene Gesserit named Lady Margot seduces him and successfully secures his bloodline before reporting back to Mother Helen. With his reputation elevated, Feyd-Rautha is appointed by the Baron to oversee spice production on Arrakis, replacing Rabban. Elsewhere, Paul reunites with Gurney Halleck, who survived the destruction of House Atreides by joining resistance groups on Arrakis. Upon discovering that Paul now leads the Fremen, Gurney urges him to build an army capable of ruling the planet. Paul explains that he deliberately avoided traveling south with his mother as the prophesied Messiah because a vision showed it would trigger the Holy War. Gurney then leads Paul and Stilgar to a secret Atreides facility where Duke Leto had hidden 92 atomic warheads, a vault accessible only to Paul. Once he unlocks it, they gain a powerful new advantage. At the same time, Jessica arrives in the south and enters a sacred temple, where a woman demonstrates how to capture a young sandworm and extract the water of life from it. Jessica instructs her to prepare the substance for Paul when he finally arrives. The woman hesitates and insists that no man has ever survived drinking the deadly water of life. But Paul is an Atreides, and the Atreides have been trained to endure poisons. Upon consuming it, Paul is overwhelmed by a vision in which he sees Chani witnessing a devastating nuclear explosion. He rushes toward her, only to find her face horribly mutilated. Suddenly, Paul awakens to the sound of explosions echoing through the desert. He sees Chani standing near the blast and sprints toward her, relieved to discover that she is unharmed. The attack is being carried out by Feyd-Rautha, who has launched an assault on Siege Tabor and destroyed the Fremen's sacred water reserve. Afterward, Feyd-Rautha confronts Rabban and harshly condemns him for repeatedly failing the Harkonnens. He humiliates his brother by kicking him and forcing him to kiss his foot before announcing his intention to personally take command on the ground. Most of the survivors from the attack, including Stilgar, are relocated to a secure shelter. There, Stilgar urges Paul to travel south and claim his place among the Fremen because only a true leader can unite them. Paul still refuses to embrace the role and instead orders Gurney, Chani, and the Fedaykin to head south and protect Jessica. While exposed to the natural spice of Arrakis, Paul experiences another powerful vision. In it, James appears before him and guides him toward drinking the water of life, explaining that it is the key to unlocking his ability to see both the past and the future. Chani eventually convinces Paul to travel south with her as Feyd-Rautha occupies the ruins of Siege Tabor. Upon arriving there, Feyd-Rautha encounters one of the remaining Fedaykin survivors and swiftly executes her. Paul and the Fremen continue south until they reach the temple. There, the small woman presents him with the water of life, and Paul accepts it. Instantly, he is pulled into a vision of the future where he sees his unborn sister fully grown in a transformed Arrakis covered by vast oceans. Meanwhile, Jessica, Chani, and the rest of the Arrakeen arrive at the temple only to find Paul lying lifeless. Believing the water of life has killed him, Chani breaks down in tears. Jessica then reveals that Chani herself is also part of the prophecy. Chani requests a sample of the water of life and mixes it with her tears before placing it on Paul's lips. Moments later, Paul returns to life. When he awakens, his mind is completely unlocked. He can now see the past, present, and future with perfect clarity, allowing him to identify the path that will lead to victory over both the Harkonnens and the Emperor. Through these revelations, Paul also learns a hidden truth about his lineage. Jessica is the daughter of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, making Paul a Harkonnen by blood as well. Armed with this knowledge, Paul travels to the southern temple where the Fremen leaders and fundamentalists have gathered. Chani attempts to oppose the growing movement surrounding him, but Gurney persuades her not to interfere. Paul interrupts the assembly and boldly declares himself the Lisan al-Gaib. Some of the fundamentalists challenge his claim, but Paul silences them by revealing details of their personal histories, as well as the ancient history of Arrakis itself. He then delivers a powerful speech that removes all remaining doubt. Convinced at last, the Fremen accept Paul as their long-awaited Messiah and officially recognize him as the leader of Arrakis. With his authority secured, Paul sends a formal challenge to Emperor Shaddam for the imperial throne. Bound by tradition and law, the Emperor has no choice but to accept. Elsewhere, Princess Irulan confronts Reverend Mother Helen Mohiam, who admits that she advised the Emperor to destroy House Atreides. Soon afterward, the Emperor arrives on Arrakis with his elite Sardaukar forces. Baron Vladimir views the Emperor's arrival as a troubling sign and sends messages to the great houses across the known universe, urging them to gather on Arrakis because the fate of the Imperium hangs in the balance. At the same time, Paul finalizes his battle strategy, preparing to strike the Sardaukar and seize control of the Emperor's flagship. Baron Vladimir presents himself before the Emperor alongside his nephews, but the Emperor reminds him that Muad'Dib still lives and that the Baron has failed to eliminate him. As punishment, the Emperor publicly humiliates him. Soon afterward, Paul launches his assault. Using the Atreides' atomic warheads, he destroys the Sardaukar warships and shatters their defenses. Then he summons enormous sandworms and leads a massive charge against the Sardaukar army. The Feyd-Rautha emerge from the sands and battle the Sardaukar, including Chani, who has now taken Paul's place in the holy battle he foresaw in the previous movie. In the ship, the Sardaukar surround the Emperor to protect him as the Feyd-Rautha break in the ship. Paul emerges from the smoke and approaches Baron Vladimir. He stabs him in the neck and tells him he dies like an animal, which are the same word that Vladimir said to Duke Leto before assassinating him. Meanwhile, Gurney is leading the charge against the Harkonnen, residing in the royal palace. As Rabban tries to escape from there, Gurney confronts him and kills him to avenge his friends and family. The Baron is thrown in the desert, whose body is crawling with ants now. Meanwhile, the other great houses arrive at Arrakis as Paul introduces himself to the Emperor as the Duke of Arrakis. He challenges the Emperor for his throne and asks Irulan's hand for marriage in case Paul wins. Otherwise, he will launch all of his atomic warheads on the spice fields, destroying the universe's most valuable substance. Chani gets heartbroken because Paul promised to love her till he dies. The Emperor chooses Feyd-Rautha as his champion. Paul accepts and a knife battle between them commences. They both fight rigorously, but Rautha stabs Paul with his own knife. He tries to stab Paul again, but Paul sneakily stabs him in the heart and defeats him. Paul walks towards the Emperor as Irulan pleads to spare his father, as she will willingly marry Paul. Paul forces the Emperor to kiss his ring and accept him as his new galactic emperor. Gurney informs that they await his further instructions because the great houses have refused to accept Paul's ascendancy. Paul prepares his army for his predicted holy universal war against the houses from across the universe. Arrakis accepts Paul as the new emperor and chant his name. Chani feels betrayed by Paul and she refuses to join him, so she calls a sandworm to ride away. The movie ends here.